lot of reading, trying to not sound that dumb, but also giving the context that I'm just a dumb biker that started an intro to criminal law class this summer, and I think I know how to fix everything. I would like to show you some of my footage from interactions that I've had with the police and compare it against some footage that my friends that they got from their interactions with police. Mostly gonna be winging this. I don't do well when I try to read off of scripts. You pull me over, you start to talk to me like I'm your friend, but what you're trying to do is coax mens rea out of me so that you have all the elements that you need. You're hunting me like I'm your prey. I go to a university called University at Albany. I'm a double major in cybersecurity, a concentration in cyber operations, and homeland defense. My minors are in linguistics and legal studies. The purpose of the video is to provide some helpful insights, solutions to some of the issues, scientific. What I'm planning to call the video is America's caste system, people and prejudice. No, procedural prejudice. My hope is to be able to define what a caste system is, demonstrate that one exists, why it's harmful, some examples of it being harmful, hopefully offer some ways to mitigate. Now, the reason I'm making this video officially, final project for my introduction to criminal law class, but secondarily, I've been wanting to make like a similar video. She wants a PowerPoint presentation that you record on Zoom. I reached out to her. Would it be possible if I just make a YouTube video as an alternative because I have this experience? Got back pretty quickly, told me, go ahead. And then I also reached out to my friend, Ja.
Yo, bro, why?
One more chance.
Yo, bro.
Drop the bike.
Bro.
I got permission from him to use his footage and his story and then try to make it at least somewhat digestible so that it's not such a dry school assignment. So let's define a caste system real quick. Briefly, high level overview. Summarily, a hierarchy, a system of categories, usually that you're born into, characteristically driven. Rich families stay at the top, or this kind of person gets put at the bottom. There's imbalances due to these inherent characteristics, traits, categories, or whatever defines it. I never had any dealings with police or the legal system, the consequences of it, until pretty recently. I had to figure out custody stuff, which made me have to figure out a lot about the system and the process. As I was crashing out, I picked up riding a motorcycle. I have had more than my fair share of experience with the police.
What's up?
What's going on?
Chilling. What are you doing?
Here because we got a call about you trying to break into one of these places, or
No, I can't.
An issue or something.
No, I didn't try to go in nowhere.
Over the past 2 years, I've had dozens of interactions going to jail for the first time. I had a search warrant executed on my house. What about our legal system, our laws, allows for inconsistencies? And then I guess we will also loosely define prejudice, negative bias in either the enforcement, treatment, outlook, social, civil, legal rules, laws, whatever. It's something like that. Now, we've got a few main antagonists. Qualified immunity, pretextual stops. And then we've got some supporting characters for our antagonists, like Graham v. Connor, and other case law that we're going to get into, maybe. Graham v. Connor determined the criterias for acceptable police use of force against us, the people. Qualified immunity is what protects an officer legally from any responsibility that might otherwise come with their actions if they weren't protected agents of the government. Because you need people that enforce the law, and you're having them act as the government. That's not on the individual officer as a citizen. It's on the officer as a representative of the government, as an agent of enforcement for the government. And typically that makes sense. Qualified immunity can only be revoked or waived under a couple of circumstances when the officer violates a clearly established right. What our courts see as a clearly established right ends up being a lot different than what you or I or typical courts might see if qualified immunity isn't involved as a rights violation. We're only going to have clearly established rights that Supreme Court has previously ruled on. It creates a lot of judicial debt. Talking in this helmet, that is enough of that. What a pretextual stop is, high level. Say he pulls you over, he is during the process of that traffic stop allowed to investigate other crimes that he believes may have been, being, or about to be committed. You wouldn't want an officer to pull somebody over for a traffic infraction and then realize during it that they're a violent criminal, got warrants, and try to actually verify, figure out, investigate whether or not that's true. You wouldn't want to prevent them from doing that. That's, I think, at the heart of it. In cases like Wren, they determined that an officer's motivations, his biases, are irrelevant. Oh, well, just don't have an out tail light. But officers are also allowed to make reasonable mistakes, and it doesn't have any impact on qualified immunity. So if an officer reasonably mistakes that you were going slightly over the speed limit and pulls you over for it, even if the charges get dropped, you spend a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of reputation points. In the Supreme Court, that's acceptable police procedure protocol. There's nothing we're going to do about that. Full circle this a little bit. Police are very heavily legally protected from any civil actions or similar through qualified immunity. They're allowed to increase the scope of their investigation depending on their own personal feelings and beliefs about the situation and you personally, as long as they find something that you violated, even in theory, through their own reasonable mistake. Like you were actually going 40 in a 40, but got pulled over for a 45 in a 40. The officer just made a reasonable mistake. The real reason he pulled you over is because he has a bias against you. So he pretends to make a reasonable mistake because he has a bias against you, and then he's allowed to lie to you at the window about why he pulled you over. That's crazy. It seems like we're dancing on a line when we have Miranda rights. That's what you get read when you get arrested. You have the right to remain silent. All that shit. Those are your Miranda rights. The whole purpose of Miranda rights, you as the accused get to make a willing decision whether or not to participate in the conversation and the investigation of the crime that you're being accused of. But when they get to lie about what you're being accused of, and when they're allowed to make mistakes about lying about what you're accused of, taking away a lot of the consent that I would otherwise have in a Miranda rights situation. I don't personally understand how that's not. Isn't that the whole purpose of Miranda rights? Isn't that like definitionally when pretextual stops come into play? As soon as the scope of your investigation widens, you should have the duty to inform that citizen that that's now the new scope before you're allowed to ask them any more questions or investigate either matter further. Or am I lost? No. I think this ends up with a system that's inconsistent and opposite of its intended purpose. There's a group of younger kids.
What's good, boys?
I hope not, bro. I hope not.
Trying to stay out of the way and just trying to hang out with each other and just be kids. I get treated a lot differently, and I'm not trying to stand on a soapbox or invoke platitudes.
You got IDs on you?
Nope.
No? All right, well, you're violating multiple city ordinances.
But I don't think that it's okay that our system even allows the space for that inconsistency, for that bias, for that prejudice.
Light where?
I have a light.
Okay. You also need to follow the rules of vehicle and traffic.
I was.
No, you weren't.
The weight of the law seems to be against the citizens. That we made it.
This is a bike lane. Look at the street.
It doesn't seem okay that one cop can decide to smash a kid's head against the concrete.
Let it go. Let it go, John. Let it go. Yo.
There shouldn't be room in the system for it. There's no reason he should go unaccountable for that. I think my main solutions, at least just like that I've cooked up half-baked a little bit, maybe we could talk about more in the comments, but swap the sides of qualified immunity. You should have to present precedent in case law that says, here's why this falls under qualified immunity, not why it falls outside of it. And step by step, case by case, precedent by precedent, play their role in taking steps towards complacency. We're handing it over. Why don't people trust the police? It feels like what bothers people the most about dealing with the police is that they're liars. You don't have to be trustworthy. There's no accountability for untrustworthiness. And I don't necessarily think that the man behind the mask is the liar. I think it's our government. And I think that we should do something about that. It's really hard to trust somebody who can look you in the face and say, you know the reason why I pulled you over today, sir? Speeding. And him just be straight up lying to you and him be protected by it because it's his job. We're told that we have rights, but then you find a way to either trick me out of them, pretend like you're still giving them to me, or take them away from me and tell me why that's good for me. The average person either has a misunderstanding, no understanding, or a hatred for it. I ride my motorcycle and all.
Do you know the reason why I pulled you over today, sir? You're too damn handsome.
It feels like the comfortability that I have in those moments translates into guilt. This is supposed to be fair. Get caught doing a wheelie.
They'll slip you up, leaves, little cracks.
So we'll do wheelies. Yeah, okay.
Pulls me over at the gas station, like no lights, just pulls up next to me.
Nice to meet you.
You're Ethan?
Yeah, Ethan. Or Casper.
Casper.
Either one.
Yeah, me ride bike.
Yeah, me ride bike. That's right.
Go at 130-ish. Blow past what? I-87. I pulled over at like one of the next exits, and I see a cop. And I'm like, oh no.
Warm up my hands a bit.
All right, no problem.
I appreciate you stopping though.
No problem.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
But then these same kids that look up to me, that are from my hometown, with similar hobbies, similar behavior, you're trying to smash his head on the pavement. Why? And how do we remove the room for that from our system? That's standing in the way of positive police-community relationships. Regardless of how you feel about the impact, presence, or definition of bias, procedural prejudice, however you want to define it, if you have any sense of morality, even if you're thinking in your own self-interest, you should not want the room for that bias and prejudice. What they're supposed to figure out is how do we navigate this in a way that compromises the sides in a thoughtful way without compromising the rights or their responsibility as the government to either party. Am I missing something? And then all the advice I've ever been given my whole life about dealing with the police has been primarily don't talk to them, don't deal with them, avoid them. And it feels like I almost go out of my way to deal with them positively. And it feels like I'm also the one having the most positive relationships with them. And the way I've been able to accomplish that is by just talking to them like they're a regular person, because they are. They just have a shitty job. And I'm not saying that the solution is just to start being nicer to cops. I don't think it is. I think the solution is to force the system to start treating us like people. And then I think people will start treating them like people in turn. And I think that the interactions will start going more like...
If I wanted to arrest him or something, I go, I saw him there. I was like, I know the
Yeah.
boot. I told him, I said, no, I've dealt with that guy.
Bro,
He's a
he
good guy.
called me and I thought he was with me. I would not
I know.
believe him.
I told him, I go, bro, I go put him on the phone, read the text message. So he's like reading, he's like, damn. I told him, I go, listen, he's a good guy.
I observe it, so I can't stop you for anything, so just don't pass on double solids.
I appreciate you.
That's all I can give you, right?
Be safe. The f are you doing? Yeah! Thank you!
Caste systems, they're usually like a social construct. What's special about America's is that ours is protected by law. It feels like this is still part of integration in a legal sense. When these issues are present, and they will be, in our society where we're pretty new at this, how do we practically deal and responsibly deal with these kinds of problems in a way that isn't self-destructive? I think it's just another one of our steps on the road for America to actually become as unified as we can be, as fair as we're always promising we are. Is this video gonna ruin my 4.0? Please don't fail me. I don't know if I did a good job or if I'm failing this class, honestly. This is the story of a girl. This is one of my first attempts at trying to do a sit down long form style video. And I'm excited that I got to do this. I still got to do editing and all of that, but it was nice to be able to just give something new a try and express some of my thoughts in a way that hopefully is digestible. And I'm Ethan Bradbury.